Hey, I'm DC Pierson. I'm an author, comedian, and enthusiastic home cook, and this is Stay for Dinner, a podcast of cooking, curiosity, and conversation. If you love cooking, if you hate cooking, if you don't know how you feel about cooking because you've never tried it before, congratulations, you're in the right place. So today I am going to be joined by Mano Agapion, host of the Drag Her podcast, one of the premier RuPaul's Drag Race recap podcasts, host of the We Love Trash podcast with Betsy Sidaro. Mano is tremendous, and I am going to be making a recipe called Vegetarian Skillet Chili by the great Melissa Clark in the New York Times. It purports to be quick, which I hope is accurate because I did not leave myself enough time. Before we get started, quick check of my ingredients. I have olive oil, I have one large yellow onion, some garlic cloves. I think I'm gonna do like 3 or 4 cloves of garlic. I'm gonna need a teaspoon of chili powder and a teaspoon of dried oregano. I have those. 2 15-ounce cans of beans. In my case, I have, let's see here, I have a black bean and I have a cannellini bean. And then 1 15-ounce can of diced tomatoes, kosher salt, of course, and then our options for garnish are fresh cilantro, diced avocado, sour cream. I have some cilantro, and I have crema, which is like sour cream, but thinner, I guess. I don't know how to describe it. I like it. And then also for our pickled onions that are going to top our vegetarian skillet chili, I have 1 lime, calls for a red onion or a shallot. In my case, I have a shallot here, and then also some more kosher salt and a little bit of granulated sugar. And it's not in the ingredients list, but in the head note of the recipe, she mentions that if you have a jalapeno, you can chop that up and throw that in there. I do have one, so I am going to. All right, so first up, I'm going to be making a pickled shallot or pickled red onion, depending. I have shallot to ultimately top our vegetarian chili. So I'm gonna cut a lime in half. Then I'm going to slice up a shallot here. Gonna thinly slice it from one end to the other into little rings. Shallots always have a really cool little rings of a tree effect inside. Gonna squeeze the lime juice into a bowl. And one thing that's great about limes is, at least in my experience, not a ton of seeds, so you can kind of just do them directly into the bowl. Then we're gonna add our shallots, big pinch of salt, small pinch of sugar. And we're gonna stir that up. And then we are going to chop a yellow onion. Ooh, tearing up a little bit from the onion. So now I am going to peel myself a few cloves of garlic and then mince them up. And gonna chop up a jalapeno as well. I'm gonna add a little oil to the pan. In this case, I'm using a large skillet because it's a vegetarian skillet chili, and that is kind of what was appealing to me about it. The skillet aspect, although I have eaten and made, I think, quite a few decent vegetarian chilies in my day, if I do say so myself. Heating that over medium-high. This skillet is really big, so it takes a little while to heat up. There we go. Now we're sizzling, add in the onion. And we're just gonna push that around the pan for a few minutes. Ooh, part of the skillet of this all is this onion is cooking fast. I'm throwing the jalapeno now. And along with the garlic, I'm gonna toss in the chili powder and the oregano. All right, now I'm gonna add my beans and tomatoes. I got 2 cans of beans, 1 can of tomatoes. I'm gonna drain the beans first. It's part of helping them not have that real canned taste. In a vacuum, you could totally use dried beans, but I think this is part of the speed. so to speak. Added my beans, adding my tomatoes, stir those guys around. And this is actually making 4 servings. Mano and I are only going to have 2. And I'm going to turn my heat back up. I had it on low while I was waiting to get everything in place. And before I forget, going to add a big old pinch of salt. All right, and I'm going to get my fixins here ready to go for once the chili is finished. It is currently simmering. Just kind of waiting for those tomatoes to break down fully. Got some cilantro. Chop that up a little bit. Trying to keep my chili moving every so often. All right, and once the tomatoes are broken down to my satisfaction, I'm going to dish this into 2 bowls. I'm topping it with, could be sour cream. In this case, I'm using crema, little oregano, and the pickled onions. And obviously, I'm going to check my salt to taste here at the end, make sure that it's all right. But it smells pretty good. It smells like chili. Mano Agapion, thank you for being here.
Whoa!
You have in front of you a Skillet vegetarian chili.
It looks and smells amazing. I literally was able to follow the smell to your
the
place.
apartment? Oh,
yeah.
Fantastic. Well, let's go ahead and dig in. We were off mic, we were just discussing, this is kind of, feels weird to not acknowledge it. It feels like this weird like hinge day of this current health situation that we're in, where it feels like people are going like, wait, what is happening?
What's happening? If you're just listening, we're in the middle of those COVID spring break, baby.
Yes.
That's what we're living.
And so, but I guess on the plus side, this is something that I don't know exactly what you have access to, but I was just saying like maybe something theoretically that is mostly just like pantry ingredients that you might have around anyway, canned tomatoes, canned beans, some spices, and then a few little fresh touches that you could kind of take or leave, like the cilantro and stuff.
That's
like
nice.
That, you know?
And this crema, it's not sour. Do not call it sour cream.
Oh yeah, it's crema, baby. It's like a thinner sour cream that I like. It drizzles easier. Easier drizzle. Thanks, man.
It's good.
I'm glad you liked it. My first question for you would be like, does this dish in particular, this meal, inspire any sort of like ratatouille moments in you where you go like, chili reminds me of?
Yeah. Whoa. Wow. I like that. So what does chili make me think of? You know what? Chili does make me think of my dad, who's like, he's just like, my dad's older. He's like 94. And he is like such a like humble, salt of the earth kind of guy that he's the kind of person who would make chili or like would basically make a meal from very little. And I want to say he used to, well, because he also used to like work in like an old school restaurant, like in the fucking 20s.
Wow, really?
Like, yeah,
oh
like his
You're saying he's quite a bit older.
He's quite a bit older. He's quite a bit older. He's 94 now, so he's like he's the kind of person who would be like, let's make chili or let's make like, you know, like you can like, if you, I don't know if you know this, but like if you have like a ham, you have like a leftover meat on a ham bone, you can really like boil down the meat and like make sort of like a chopped barbecue with it. And he would always do that.
Oh,
partially because it's good and partially because it's like he grew up in the Depression.
Right.
So he grew up at a time where it was like,
we're not going to throw anything away.
Exactly.
If we have
Exactly.
Yeah, I do. I do love things like that where it's sort of like you have just like the rind of a thing of like Parmesan that you're done grating, and you can throw that in a soup and it will like infuse it with a bunch
That's
of like
amazing.
umami and whatever.
Have you done that?
I have done that. It's
wow.
It's great. It's easy. It's like you just basically you're making pretty much any soup, and if you have a Parmesan rind, you just throw it in there, and it's awesome. But tell me about your dad's chili. I
want to say he made a chili that was like pretty by the books. Like, I wouldn't say it wasn't maybe quite as multi-dimensional as this. There's probably like, it was like meat, beans.
Okay, so beans, because that can be controversial.
Yeah, interesting.
The
Because
meat,
you're saying,
no meat.
well, that's interesting because like condiment chili is its own thing, right? Like it almost like we call them all chili, but right, sometimes chili is like
right. You mean like when it's on top of like usually a hot dog, let's say, or maybe a Frito
hot dog,
pie.
It would never have beans in it,
No.
right?
No,
that would be crazy.
It would be disgusting.
But we're calling them all chili.
Right. Yeah.
That's crazy.
But I think if you're like from Texas, you're like, if it's got beans in it, that ain't chili. You know, that's kind of your thing.
Yeah, and well, that means we have to talk about Tommy's, because Tommy's burger is nasty. Have you had Tommy's burger? I
have had Tommy's burger. You tell me about your Tommy's burger experience, and then I will tell you about mine.
I had it.
We should say we're in Los Angeles.
We're in Los Angeles.
It's an LA institution? ?
I guess. No, it is, because it's just been here so damn long, and the buildings harken back to that like very 40s, 50s era of fast foodery.
Like huts.
Yeah, they're huts. And I just remember this being like, oh, it's so big here in LA. This must be good.
Right.
This is a big deal. There's a location on Hollywood and Bronson. Holy shit. I'm going to eat that. And I think I ate it late one night, and I was like, okay, yeah, let's get some chili fries. Let's get a chili burger. Great. Awesome. They say they've been here a long time. Got to be good. And I remember just, for me, being shocked at how nasty it was. Shocked. Because it's not like a good chili. It's just like hot trash on top of a burger. I also will say, though, I'm not someone who is excited about condiment chili.
Right.
At all.
You're not excited about chili coming out of like a spigot.
Exactly.
Onto something.
Yeah, can't be excited
Serve
about
yourself.
that. Can't do it. I can't. Why would you? I just think there's, like I said, there's like that 9 times out of 10, it will not be prepared lovingly. It'll be prepared in a surplus style.
Yes, it will have like simmered past the point of recognition.
Yeah.
It's like an heirloom, but not in a good way. Not in like heirloom tomatoes.
Yeah.
It's like heirloom, like this is like been here since.
Yeah.
We've been adding more new chili ingredients to the same pot.
Absolutely.
And it like sort of is cycling through, but
now it's like the ingredients are like calcium benzoate, anti-caking agent, of kinds. So like now it's like, how would you make a
and it's in there
chili?
with stuff that they put in the 50s.
Exactly.
Still, there's trace amounts of it left.
Oh,
Kennedy
so
half
wait,
dollars.
What was your Tommy's experience?
My Tommy's experience was basically the same experience as that, but with a more specific buildup.
Okay.
Which was when my now wife and I first started dating, we went to. It's like the type of thing you always say you're going to do, and I pat myself on the back that I actually like did it, which was went to northern Arizona where my grandparents live, and we like talked to them about their lives and like taped it as just a like
cute.
family whatever thing. And my grandma talked about, which maybe I knew this at one point, but I had forgotten. She lived in LA in the 50s. She was like from Arizona, but then like came out to LA to like, to try to be a movie star basically. But like vaguer than that. I think she was just sort of like, LA, right? That's glamorous. I'll make it. And then just never quite, I think, figured out what that looked like. But she was like, oh yeah. And we would hang out at this place, Tommy's Burger. It's really good. It's Tommy's Burger. That was like the spot. And I remember being like, oh, Grandma, we have one by our place. I have never been.
Right.
But I'll go. And she's like, you got to go. You got to report back. And so got back to LA, like raring to go. It was like 3 blocks from where I lived at the time, and had then again the exact same experience of being like, this is going to be so good. It's an institution. There's multiple locations. And then just not getting it. Maybe I'm not ordering right. I'll say that if you're out there and you're like a Tommy's devotee, like by all means, I'm willing to be sold on it. But I kind of think it's the sort of thing that it had to catch you at a certain point. And maybe that was like when you were riding with your baby in a hot rod.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it probably was a better product then.
I think so.
I think hands down.
Guess.
And then I think, like we'll never be able to live that authentic experience that was that life.
Yes.
That's so cool.
I know. It's a catch-22. But then recently I was going to a show and I walked by the original Tommy's, which is like on Rampart, which is not the one I had gone to, where it's sort of like it is just like a little tiny hut, and then there's like a bunch of newer like outbuildings and whatever. And I took a picture of it and I sent it to her, and I was like, hey, this is the original Tommy's. And then that launched us on a whole thing where then now she calls me every like 6 days and is like, I remembered another thing about LA in the 50s, and I'm just writing it all down. I'm like Googling stuff. It is like kind
cute.
of enjoyable.
I thought you were going to say other Tommy's memories.
No, not other Tommy's.
Because then I would say
other like LA history. Like she was like, oh, there was this bar called the Peacock Alley that we would go to.
That's incredible.
Exactly. Yes.
Anything to get away from Tommy's.
Precisely.
I thought she was like, hey, guess what? I thought about Tommy's again.
One time I had 2 orders of fries.
Yeah, no, there can't. You can't have all memories of Tommy's. Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. So, but it's funny how even though it was packed with more emotional content, it was the same experience.
Yeah.
Of having Tommy's be too built up for me, and then being a big come down.
Absolutely.
So when your dad is making this chili, where are you guys geographically growing up?
We were in North Carolina. They live there still. Grew up. Yeah, my dad, I would say, he would be like Saturday mornings.
Oh.
Yeah, like if he's cooking, because he was a real Monday through Friday 9 to 5 guy. So like if he was cooking, it would be on the weekends, and he would make a very like chili, but then he would also make like very like Greek, kind of a very Greek breakfast.
Oh, tell me about it.
I guess a Greek breakfast is probably just like it's. I mean, there's a lot of American stuff in there, like your eggs and stuff, but then there's probably like a bigger focus on like Greek sausages.
Interesting.
Which sometimes is called like lecanico, which is like it sometimes they're spicy sausage, but there's like a big focus on sausage for some reason. Yeah.
What kind of flavors are we working with in a Greek sausage? Like, do you know what kind of other spices they might put in there besides?
It can run the gamut from. It would be hard for me to know what it is, but sometimes a hot, like a real like throat heat, kind of thing, and sometimes just more like fatty, like a very like lamb centric. Kind of just like fat-driven sausage. Both are great.
Were they like fresh, or was it the kind of thing where it's like, okay, this has been dry. This is now like a link of like dried sausage that I'm cooking down a bunch. Do you remember?
It wasn't like, cause like wait, when it's what do you mean? Like when it's like
almost
dry,
like a salami
dried?
is what I would think of as being like a dried.
No, something
sausage.
that was like a product, like so something like that had to be either refrigerated or maybe frozen, but not like a full. I don't know. It wasn't like a fully. It wasn't quite as dry as a pepperoni.
Gotcha. So it's like a midway point.
Yes, if that makes sense.
It does.
If I'm recalling correctly. So yeah, and then my dad loved frying like potatoes, like frying like just making like homemade like like wedges of potato in a skillet at home. So like that reminds me of that kind of just homey comfort foods.
And do you think this sounds like something that he was just like doing to straight up relax? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if somebody else is handling the cooking like the other 5 days a week, it sounds like it's the sort of thing that he's doing because he wants to be.
Absolutely. He would be playing like old school Greek jams like on tape, which was like a big part of his shot. That's what it always blows me away when people like grew up with like classic rock and roll.
Oh, interesting.
I grew up just around like
pure Greek music,
village music.
Wow.
Yeah.
And is it like up tempo? Like what are we? Because I have sort of what's playing in my head, but I'm like I don't really know.
The stuff my dad listened to was like old school, like Greek folk. Like it's just like a couple instruments and a guy wailing, either about love or a war. It's kind of like Greek folk music is like Greek country.
Right.
It's always about a love or a war.
Very few other things. Or like we had a really good, like, is it like we had a really good harvest, or are they pretty much just like, I'm sad about my love?
It's usually sad about love or
I'm
that damn
war.
Yeah, I would say it's mostly those two things, honestly. So those were really old school. And like maybe my mom listened to more like Greek pop, but even her taste was also very like folksy from the 70s.
So like Greek ABBA?
Kind of, yeah.
Interesting, sort of like Eurovision-y is what I'm.
Very that. Well, yeah. So there's a bunch of old groups, and like I think what's interesting too is like I don't know, we can't talk about Greek pop too long, but like there was like an old like there, and I think it's true of a lot of international countries, but like a pop star was usually like a person in their straight up 40s. Do you know what I mean?
I do. Yes, I do.
It would be like an old like hanging on to handsome by a thread man, or like a beautiful mom. Like a beautiful mom.
But like stately.
Yes.
Like she's lived a life. She's like earned her spot.
Yes, they had like lived their lives, and then like, and I think in more recent years, like with Eurovision, which I love Eurovision, I watched and I was a avid fan through my high school and college years. It has now transformed to be like, oh yeah, like pop is now just young hot just people, pop. Even in
it's
Greece.
like American pop.
Yes, young hot people.
That's so interesting. Yeah, the example that I think of when I imagine what you're talking about is. Like, do you remember Los Del Rio, the group that did, and it had the Macarena, where it was like, these are these guys that have been around forever, and then somebody did like a remix of their song, and now it's just like two old guys who look like they would sell you a coffin.
Yeah, truly. Two guys that look like they like own like a really... Like they own like a really nice tire shop.
Yes, precisely. But they'll take care of you because they repeat business. That's how they stay in business.
Yeah.
You know? And so come back, have a dance, and a laugh.
Yes. So it used to be that, and now it's not that anymore. Now it's just all pop, 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 pop. But there's like a couple old ones, like Ana VC. There was like a group that was very ABBA called Zacharia. Ooh. And then I think my mom had like a special place in her heart for kind of like, obviously, like the handsome older men. Sure. Who would sing, there was one really popular one called Barrios, who was just like an old handsome dude who just was like, he was like a Greek Elvis.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like
that's
old,
cool.
But still like, we're like, we
and
love
so your
him.
because your dad's a bit older than your mom. So she's almost holding down more the contemporary Greek pop at the time.
By a hair. Yeah,
and then
yeah.
your dad is fully reaching back to the like.
Yeah. Like old school village tunes.
Wow.
So that's why it blows my mind when people are like, yeah, we grew up with the Eagles. I'm like, I don't know. When someone puts on an Eagles song, I'm like, oh yeah, that. But I didn't grow up knowing any. I feel like everyone knows what everyone grew up with either AC/DC or Rolling Stones or some shit.
And you grew up straight up Greek folk. Do you feel like there will maybe be a point in your life where you will shift into that, or do you go back to that at all just for the nostalgia of it?
Yeah, like I have a real fondness for the music because like I grew up with it.
Sure.
So like even when it's like straight up pop, I'm really I have an ear for it, and it's like Greek pop and all that stuff. I'm intrigued by. I'm also like Arabic pop and it runs the gamut from full on Eurovision trash to like weird world music. Like I've gotten really into like the world electronic. And if you need a cheat sheet, just look up Buddha Bar. And that's sort of like a cheat sheet of like that weird mixture of like world music with electronic. And it's basically like a popular CD series and collection.
So it's like EDM Epcot Center is what I'm hearing.
Very that. Very Electric Daisy, Disney World, Carnival. Yeah, it's very that.
And all of these things are canceled now. So just sit in your house and listen to it and pretend like you're in Ibiza.
Yeah, open up the Spotify, go to Buddha Bar, experience the world from the safety of your bedroom.
So your dad's cooking. He's holding down the cooking on the weekends. Who do you see cooking like during the week? What are you guys eating during the week?
Yeah, mom cooked a lot. A lot of Greek food. In fact, mom was really good at cooking Greek food, and whenever she made like something outside of that, we were scared.
Oh, interesting.
She would like borderline poison us when she like tried to make something more Americanized. Like,
do you remember? Does an example stick out to you?
Yes, I remember. My mom tried to make meatloaf like maybe a couple times. And me and my other siblings, I have 3 older siblings, were notoriously called it poison, because she didn't get meatloaf. Like she didn't. She in fact tried to, because she has such a Greek palate. She tried to make it too herbaceous. So she's very comfortable with flavors like lemon and oregano and all kinds of thyme and onion. Which, if you go too heavy with that on a meatloaf, it tastes like a garden. So we would always get scared when she went American and just be like, oh, fuck, mom tried to make something out of her wheelhouse, and that's when she was not in her best.
So she's not working off just purely like the Better Homes and Gardens recipe, or maybe she's starting there, but then she's going like, but you're going to want a little lemon.
Exactly.
I mean, you got to have a little thyme. You got to have a little onion, and then before you know it, it's just like...
Yeah,
half Greek loaf.
She did the same thing with like hamburgers. Like we were like, she tried to make like, because a hamburger needs to just be like meat and fat and salt, but she would try to basically make it like a meatball.
Oh,
it would kind of become a meatball.
sure.
And so like when you mix like a meatball, and I'm talking about like a really oniony forward meatball,
Yes.
with the stuff you would put on a burger, it's not good. At least certainly to a kid palate. You're like,
Right.
no, ma'am.
I do think there is a strange, I don't know, meatloaf and burgers do feel like both incredibly, like deceptively simple, but incredibly tricky things where it's like a meatloaf, you want it to be, I don't know, I've never made it myself, but it's like, that is, you are adding bread, I feel like, and then there's like ground meat, tomato-ish, some spices, but like that's probably pretty much it at the end of the day. If you add in too many things, you're drifting.
Yeah. She also made like a terrible stir fry that she'd always be like, I'm going to make the veggie stir fry as like a veggie side. And we'd be like, no.
What are we looking at in there?
It was just like watery.
Oh.
Like a watery
She's using a lot of frozen
stir-fry.
vegetables?
I don't know. I don't even know if they were frozen vegetables. I think she just didn't get how to ride that line. Like maybe she was going too sauce heavy at the beginning, or I don't know, but like it did not work.
Right. There's just a lot of moisture from jump, and then it never has a chance to cook off because also the vegetables are probably leaking some juice. That's tough.
It's a tough game to play. Yeah, and she did not get it. But when she made Greek food, it was amazing. Like, so all the Greek food is amazing. She would make pastitsio, which is like it's like a Greek lasagna. Yeah. So that's like, I guess it's a little different though, because like pastitsio usually has like noodles, a really fun meat sauce, and then usually there's sort of like a bechamel on top.
Ooh, okay.
So it's somewhere in between a lasagna and I don't know what you would call it.
I mean, a lot of lasagnas you're going to have a bechamel in there. I feel
Oh, they do, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, then I'm not. Okay, then we're not crazy. Yeah. So it's just like maybe a Greeker version of that. Ooh. She would make it just a straight up the best like baked chicken. That's just like very lemon, olive oil, oregano forward, and then make the potatoes with it. You know?
Oh, like all in the same pot?
Yeah. So like they kind of absorb some of like the fat and the flavor from that chicken. Ooh. That was very good.
Oh man, I love roast chicken so much.
Oh
it's
God.
The best.
All the stuff like that she could nail. Like she could make a killer roast. She could make like a killer meat and potatoes killer.
Right.
Like any meat and potatoes dish she could nail. Anything with like a pasta she could nail. But then like other stuff she made a good chicken Kiev.
Oh, interesting.
Chicken Kiev, yeah.
I don't know if I've ever had it. I mean, maybe growing up, but
it's great.
So, but it's interesting because I don't have a ton of Greek food experience, like not a ton of experience cooking it, not a ton of experience eating it, but it does seem like that sort of like Greek, what I think of, or even as you just described as being like Greek flavors, like lemon, thyme, onion, all feel like things where I'm like roast chicken, boom, get it in there,
exactly.
We're done, fantastic.
Exactly.
But it's interesting to me, weirdly, I guess, I mean, I'm literally, as I'm about to say this, I'm like, oh, I'm just thinking a straight up stereotype. Which is like the Greek burger joint, like that being a thing, and like in the Northeast, in like the 50s, 60s, or like that.
Oh, it's huge.
You know,
it's huge. But restaurants were a huge. I mean, that's the reason why they're doing it is because the food's a big part of the culture. But it's also just like with like here on the West Coast, like there, a lot of donuts are run by Asian families for the same reason of like they immigrated at a time where it was hard to secure like big loans and they needed cash driven businesses to like live and like kind of like make money.
Right.
And
that really makes sense. And
that.
it's just sort of like they show up and they're going like, what is the need here? What are people wanting? Let's do that.
Yes.
Basically.
Which is why there are so many Greek American diners.
Oh man, that's so interesting. I never really made the connection. I mean, it's sort of obviously it's like, oh, this is an immigrant experience. This is an immigrant thing. But then the idea that you're going to have somebody that goes like, oh, okay, I'm showing up. I'm seeing what is the need and where can I sort of like get in at the level that I'm sort of being held to, basically.
Totally. Yeah. That's the American dream, baby. No, but truly it's like, okay, how do I play their game? This is how. Yeah. Yeah.
How does cooking like either fit in or not fit into your life at the moment?
Oh boy. I'm such a bad cook. Or I don't try it. I don't for some reason I just don't I have a hard time committing to the time and
Sure.
like ingredients, and like sometimes the equation of using my ingredients kind of gives me anxiety.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it gives me anxiety of like, wait, this is fresh for this long, so I need to make this, but what if it doesn't go together, you know? So
like I thought I was gonna make X, but I have all of this celery.
exactly.
I feel like for me it's always celery. You know what I mean?
Celery
Like-
is it's cheap and they give you a lot.
exactly.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You were saying.
No, yeah. So I don't cook very often. I think it's cool. I always like it when I do it. I've done a couple of my mom's recipes.
Oh, like what?
So I've done that. So I made my mom's spanakopita.
Ooh,
And I'm
can you
really
talk
good
about
at that.
in the process, please?
Oh yeah, I know that one I fully know how to do very well because I was like, these are delicious and it's always impressive for people. So, I mean, raw materials for a good spanakopita are, of course, you do get frozen phyllo dough. Making your own phyllo dough is actually insane. It's not possible. You need like a
Right.
mechanical, you get it. You've seen phyllo dough. It's insane.
Because it's for those who are less phyllo experienced. It's like these little teeny tiny layers. Like it's so many, like thinner than the page of a book.
Truly.
Crispy layers of dough, flaky dough.
Truly, yeah. So you buy frozen. If you could find fresh, that's amazing. But usually it comes frozen from a company like Athinos or any of those Greek companies. So you buy that frozen. Then you need to get, of course, your ghee or your butter. Either will work. Ghee's a little better. You can clarify your own butter.
Right.
You could clarify your own butter. My mom likes to clarify it for herself for some reason. But it's more ideal since you're using the butter so much to seal those little layers. With usually the milk fat or the milk fat or the cream in a butter will kind of create like bubbles.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
They're fine because I've used butter and it's like whatever, there's bubbles on it. But if you want that like really finely finished thing, ghee's better.
So basically you're pre-treating the butter. You're either using ghee or you're kind of making your own clarified butter so that when you use it in the dish, it behaves in a different way.
Yes.
It gives you more the result you want.
Exactly. Just like with a croissant, it more effectively permeates and crisps up those layers.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's good. So you need those two for the exterior. And then if you're going to make the filling, it's pretty easy. You can I prefer frozen spinach, but you get frozen spinach. You want to de-water it, right? You want to thaw it and you want to really like kind of press it through some sort of a colander and just kind of like get all the water out because once again, the water's going to make it not as delicious as of a pastry.
Right.
So get the water out. Depending on how big your batch is, you need an egg or two. Yeah, I kind of more eyeball it. I get that from my mom. My mom was like, she's just an eyeball cook, so I learned that. But once you add all the other ingredients, you'll know how eggy you want it to be, right? You don't want it to become a frittata. Because then it's like, oh, that's too eggy. You just want it to be a binding agent.
Gotcha. Okay, right. So because when I think of spanakopita, I don't think of it as being like, I wouldn't have guessed like there's egg in there, but it's like, oh, of course, because it is like holding everything together.
Yes. You could potentially skip it, but it makes for a better bake.
Sure.
So you have that. Then of course Cheesetown. You just go to Cheesetown. The one good American thing my mom has done is my mom is liberal with the cheese mix in her spanakopita. So we have our traditional cheese, of course, feta, Romano, Pecorino, Parmesan. That's good. But then my mom, like a genius, has been like, let's add cream cheese. Fuck yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
You add cream cheese. You really can add anything. There's another creamy. Oh, you can add ricotta if you want, because just to add that sort of like creaminess to it. So you have like the sharp notes of the feta and the parm and the pecorino, and then you have the softer. It's all great.
Ooh.
Then there's only one more thing you need to do.
Okay.
You need to saute you need to chop up and saute some red onions and or leeks in a pan. So do that. Let them cool because you don't want them to cook the mix. So you put all of those. Then once you have your sauteed little red onions or leeks, whatever, any sort of onion will do, shallots. You put all that in a big old mixing bowl. So you have like the goop.
Sure.
And then you have your sort of phyllo dough. And you have two options. You can make it in a big tray, with just like a lot of crispy on the bottom and a lot of crispy dough on top. But the better way to do it is to make little American flag triangles.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, okay, yeah, that's
Yeah.
the one I feel like that's the one I've
That's
I've
the
seen.
one. That's the one.
That's the
'Cause you
iconic
get-
spanakopita.
That's the iconic one. So you put, your tablespoon of filling in and then fold it American flag style.
Ooh.
And then just seal it up some more with that ghee so that the butter gets, all over it. And yeah, you bake them.
Oh
Bake
my
them until they're
gosh.
golden brown. Oh, they're so good.
So when you are with your family or when you're growing up, and this is spanakopita is that like an entree? Is that like a thing that's on a big spread on a Sunday? Like where does it fit in?
It's almost like Greek pizza. Well, because you could just,
sure.
you can have it anytime.
Yeah.
It can be an appetizer.
Yeah.
You could have it as part of the meal.
Ooh.
Yeah, literally all of the above. We would definitely have it as an appetizer. At a Thanksgiving, it would definitely be like part of the mix of stuff that you're putting on your plate. I would say that's the most common, but I would say like it is like a side, but it's like a side you're like stoked for. You're like,
Yeah.
fuck yes. Yeah.
Oh man, I mean,
And if you hate
yeah,
spinach,
please.
you can make it without it.
Oh, interesting.
And that's also Greek, a tiropita, which just means cheese.
So it's just at that point we're just talking cheese, phyllo, onion,
Yeah.
or leek.
Yeah, exactly. Which that's a good option too if someone's like some people are really spinach averse.
But also spinach is great. Mm-hmm. It's so I feel like it's one of those things where it's like once you're not a kid anymore,
Right,
you got to get on the
exactly.
spinach train.
You can put anything in there, and then some people in Greece even make it with like a mushroom. You can make a mushroom and cheese little tiropita.
So what is there a name for like that family of?
I think people just say pita.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So and then you're like, so yeah, because people kind of refer to that, and that's another fun part of Greece is like there's a lot of like the way it's just you could very easily pick and casually pick up some sort of pita like from like a bakery or a roadside stand and be on your way. And like, so you can basically eat a delicious pastry on the go because everyone's like, this is what we're gonna like. There's a
Yeah.
culture of having that readily available.
Right, and it's so weirdly like portable.
Yeah.
There's something about the triangle little packet of deliciousness.
Yeah, and some of them
man.
make like bigger circle ones. It's great.
Oh man, this sounds fantastic. Have you been to
great.
Greece?
I have, yes, a lot. I've been a couple times. Yeah, I've been lucky enough to go probably like 10 times in my life.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's
it's
quite a few
fun.
times. Were there differences that you noticed between like, okay, this is the sort of like echo of Greek food that reached me through the like Greek American lens versus like this is like Greek food in Greece today?
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, because like when you do go to Greece and when you're in any touristy place, which it's impossible to not have tourism now in Greece, it's great because that's like their only economy. And so, I mean, you are going to run into Greek fast food, which is your gyros, your souvlaki, all that stuff. That's great.
Right.
That's not like as traditional, but still so delicious. I'm not mad at a good gyro or souvlaki, especially when like in Greece, a lot of times they put the French fries inside of the sandwich.
That's interesting because I think that of that as being such a weird like American or kind of like you hear about it like in Pittsburgh or at like Rutgers in New Jersey as like a college kid
Yeah.
thing. It's very interesting to me to hear like
It's
I don't know
probably
who's
adopted.
influencing who, but,
Exactly.
but I love it.
Yeah, exactly.
I love any carb on carb is for me
It's
is the
so
best.
good. Like the meat with your like tomato and onion and then tzatziki and fries. I mean, it's just such a good, and the soft bread. It's such a good combo.
And is the produce good? Like, is it the kind of thing where it's just like
Yes.
we're also getting fresher stuff?
Yeah.
On average.
Yeah, tomatoes in Greece are crazy good. But yeah, all of it's good. Cucumbers are good. And as you know, like a Greek salad there doesn't have lettuce. Like they don't have lettuce. Like they have
Interesting.
it,
I
but
did
it's
not know that.
Lettuce was not indigenous to Greece.
Gotcha.
So traditional Greek salad was just like all the other fun stuff. Peppers, onions, cucumbers, feta, olives, of course, drizzle of olive oil and balsamic.
I'm not missing lettuce.
Exactly. You don't miss. That's the best part when you go to Greece.
know?
You'll get every Greek salad. If you get a salad with lettuce in Greece, leave.
You're not in Greece.
You're not in the right
You're at
restaurant.
Sizzler.
Yeah. You're at the McDonald's, which there is a really goofy Greek fast food chain in Greece called Goodies.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, which is goofy.
What is it like?
It's mostly McDonald's-ish ripoffs, but there's also some weird, like they serve spaghetti. Do you know what I mean? One of those.
Interesting. Yeah, I feel like that is a weird through line, or I think of like Jollibee, the like Filipino place where it's sort of like, okay, it's a Filipino fast food chain, but we have them here in LA as well. And you'll walk by one in the mall or you'll drive by one and you'll see like, oh, we have the famous combo is like a burger and spaghetti. And you go, interesting.
Right. Right. I don't know what it is. Is it maybe just because spaghetti is so easy to produce, or is it because there are some weird kids who only eat spaghetti?
I don't know. Maybe. Also, it's just like, I guess we go like, okay, these are the combinations that we know, and they seem so sort of like baked in as like burger, fries, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But I guess there's no reason why it couldn't be a burger and spaghetti other than feels weird that they both have ground meat in them.
Yeah.
Theoretically.
Right.
But I guess it is like burger and carb, which fries is like burger and carb.
Yeah, but I think it's crazy. It's crazy. And it's fully based on just us. Like, we're both just like kids who grew up in the 90s, but it's like, nuh-uh.
Right. There's something about it. That's not my Burger King Kids Club.
That is not fast food. That is dinner.
Yes.
That is sitting at home with your parents' dinner. Yeah, so that blows my mind. But yeah, what were we saying?
Oh, we were off in Greece.
Oh, Greece. Yeah, you should go. You would love it.
It seems amazing. But it's also like, again, not one of the traditions of food that I feel like I seek out most often, even though when I have really good Greek food, it's tremendous, you know?
Truly. And it's harder to find
I
on
really
the West
like
Coast.
lamb too. That makes sense. I do think of Greek food as being like, or, you know, I think of like...
It's East Coast.
Connecticut. I don't know why.
Well, just all the Greek, like, I would dare say, if not 100%, 90% of Greek American immigration was via New York.
Wow.
Because why would they come to this side? That would be crazy. So that's why there's like, of course, in that Northeast region, of course, but like just on the East Coast, there's actually Greek Americans and Greek restaurants. Right. Yeah. Whereas there's some here, but it's like, I just went to one actually here that was like very shishi. And some stuff was delicious, but some stuff was completely overcomplicated.
Oh, interesting.
And unnecessary.
Just because they're trying to like overinterpret it?
Yes. It was called I think it was called Kassi, Kassi. It's like in West Hollywood. And it was just like very cool. Mm-hmm. But like, for example, they had like dolmades, you know, like the rolled up grape leaf thing. And they put, because, you know, a dolma is like grape leaves and really delicious seasoned rice. Sometimes there's a rice meat mix in there, whatever. But this one, it was completely wrong because there was no rice in it. It was like just a meat wrapped one. And at first I was like, maybe I'll like that. And then I was like, no, you're blowing it because like, I think part of the appeal, you know what? It's funny. I'm talking with my boyfriend. My boyfriend's Japanese and he loves Asian cuisine and he can cook. But we were talking about, I was like this, the way that like, a good sushi is kind of, it can be such a cheap filling food. You know what I mean? And like the simplicity of seaweed and rice is like, simple, cheap, nourishing. Yes. A good dolma is the same way where it's like grape leaf, rice. Oh,
that's so interesting. I never would have thought about the connection, but I completely see it now.
Yeah.
Where it's just like you might have like a seaweed element or it's some other sort of wrapped element.
Exactly.
You have the rice, you have the protein.
It's kind of earthy thing with like an umami
so cool. And it's
thing.
Also like we're just sort of like putting this stuff forward in a very straightforward way. We're not dressing it up a lot. And also there is something too about like rice, no matter what, is great. Again, carbs, amazing. We love them. Mm-hmm. But there's something about when rice is really like soaks in something else or like the starch from the rice gets in the meat or, you know, like when rice becomes a part of something.
Yes.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so good. I mean, that's why I was like, you guys are blowing it. Like,
that's too bad.
You've missed how simple it is. It's like even when you go to Sugarfish, which have you been to Sugarfish? It's great. It's delicious. Obviously, it's pricey for the protein side, but like, and the rice is so simple. And of course, they prepare it very specifically, and it's warm and delicious. But it's just like the simplicity of good rice. Yes. It's so great.
Yeah, where you go like, also too, there's something to things where you go like, well, there can literally not be of any very expensive ingredients in just the rice part, right? But the fact that it's treated and handled with such care, it's like that's where now you're paying fucking $12 for it comes in. It's like, this is really being treated with like
right
dignity. A lot of stuff is being brought to just this little mound of rice because it is really good.
It's so good.
I would work on these shows a lot where the executives just had a like standing order at Sugarfish. And so we would be like shoved into like some little trailer getting notes from them, and we would be all like tired, and maybe you had like back on your laptop in the writer's room, you would have like a just like gross clamshell top salad kind of getting slowly sweating away.
Oh, yeah.
And you would be getting notes from these executives, and they would just be like, yeah, so I like the first line and the last line, but change the entire middle part and whatever. And oh, by the way, now it's like Channing Tatum instead of whoever. And it was like award show shit. And you would be like, and as they're saying this, they're just like eating them. It's like every night they had Sugarfish, and it was just so like your nose is pressed up against the glass. Like, I want to be them.
I want to be them. I know what you mean. Ew, and you're eating. Yeah, the condensation salad you just described really hit me hard.
It's out there.
Or like an airport salad with like wet shredded cheddar cheese on it. No,
I know. Yeah, it's
tough.
It's tough. So much food is so bad.
Yeah,
and
so much.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But I know you mentioned your boyfriend cooks, which leads me to. Have you ever cooked for somebody on a date or had somebody cook for you on a date? And if so, how did it go? Good or ill?
I cooked for him a couple times, and it was okay. It was pretty good. I mean, like, I would say like sometimes great. Like for his birthday this past year, he specifically was like, I want you to cook for me. And I was like, okay, happy to do it. Let's do it. And because he knows like I need instructions, he was like, here are the links and like YouTube videos of these recipes. And I was like, great, I can do this. And I made some pretty complicated recipes. Like I made Maddie Matheson. We know Maddie Matheson, that chef. He has this like chimichurri steak sandwich that's really good and like pretty easy, everything said, because really the hardest thing is chopping everything up for the chimichurri.
Sure.
Because for a chimichurri, you just chop everything.
Right.
Everything.
If you're wondering how to make it, get everything, chop it, you're done. You're almost done.
You're really done. Add olive oil. Like, that's it.
Right.
And so that was cool. And with a flank steak, it was like a flank steak chimichurri sandwich on like a fun Tolera roll. Any roll will do, but those Tolera rolls are so good.
High level. Get a nice roll. And then I made a French onion soup.
Ooh,
I've never made that. What was that experience like?
It was amazing. It was good. That one was like just time intensive.
Sure. Really cooking the onions down, I guess?
Right, because you sweat the onions down. You can even pop it in an oven to just get them sweated down to as little as possible. Then you make the soup part, then you kind of cook it over a stove. Then you want to put it in some sort of earthenware, top it with your sliced bread, top it with the cheese.
Do you have the appropriate
I did,
bowls?
I just used like a big earthenware. So it worked. It just kind of was more like one big French onion soup as opposed to like the little ones.
The individual ones.
It was great.
Ooh, that sounds fantastic.
I made one other thing. Oh, and then just like some like balsamic-y Brussels sprouts.
Sure.
Those were good. Or they were just like roasted Brussels sprouts, and then you toss them in this like balsamic kind of glaze you create on a stovetop.
Yum.
It was good.
Perfect. And this is the meal. This is the birthday meal.
That's the birthday meal.
Oh, that's so nice.
I know. It was and it was a fucking lot of work.
I was going to say, this sounds like you're like, oh, I don't really cook. I'm not good at it. And then you're describing making all of this pretty ambitious stuff.
Yeah.
That sounds like it came out really well.
No, yeah, it came out well. It was definitely there was definitely a due amount of work where I was like, okay, I did this. Right. I did this. And I remember though, like, it was whatever. It's neither here nor there, but I remember like it was also like having a party that night, so there was like a weird time crunch between him eating the meal and saying hi to his guests. So like a crazy person, I kept like bringing him the food, being like, eat it. Eat the
so
food.
it's not a dinner party per se. It's more like this is his dinner, but the party is happening simultaneously.
Yes.
Interesting.
The timing just got fucked because it was supposed to be normal, but then it turned out just me like bringing him food, and I was like, no, what are you gonna do? What are you going to do?
So basically it's like it ended up taking longer than you and that you anticipated.
Yes. And then it was a long story.
It bled into party time.
His car broke down.
Oh, no.
Thankfully, he had a roommate go pick him up while I was cooking, but it was just the timing was not on my side.
Oh, man.
But no, it was delicious, and but it was like I don't cook all the time. I need to do it more, but like for whatever reason, it seems like a lot to me.
I know what you mean though, of like having those ingredients that you then go like, okay, I don't want to waste stuff. Mm-hmm. So when I have this, it's almost like there's like a passing of the torch from one recipe onto the next of like, this thing is always going to leave me a little bit of extra whatever. And then I'm getting more ingredients to make the next thing and the next thing. And I know what you mean. And it is annoying because it's also like you end up feeling like you're like wasting food. Then if you have to like throw away half a thing of cilantro, they're always going to sell you too much cilantro.
Oh, just like celery. It's very cheap.
But I know what you mean. I think like part of that, I don't know. That's a good question. And I also think you're right. It's like, because it sounds like you were like trying to tackle some pretty ambitious stuff. And it's also just like, does it make sense to do right now in your life? Like maybe not. Also, especially if your boyfriend cooks and really likes it. And I don't know if you guys have like different work schedules or if that's like factors into it. Yes,
it factors into it, but it's also like he's just a better cook. He's just a good ass cook. Like,
does he make a lot of Japanese stuff, or is he all over the map?
He does. There's a lot of Asian influence in what he cooks.
Right.
He makes these really amazing like wings. That are just like fried in a wok and then just tossed with like a really fun, sweet, dry chili, star anise kind of glaze.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
It's fucking great.
Oh, man. Something about the dryness. I know what you mean. I feel like I've had wings somewhat like that before.
Yeah.
And it's so good. It doesn't necessarily sound like what you would think. Like, I want my wings to be really dry, but there's something about that particular like I don't know, those flavors so spicy. Ooh, that sounds good.
Yeah, and it's pretty easy to make. There's the wings where you just like coat them in cornstarch, and then just you need a lot of oil, so you need to buy a big amount of peanut or canola oil. But it's like you just coat them in cornstarch, and then you have fun with the glaze. But the wings just cornstarch and oil.
Fantastic,
so good.
Good for him. We are. I mean, props to him. You know.
Yeah. No, he's good. He's good. Because I think, and I don't know if it is different actually, because I think like a lot of his cooking is like sauce first.
Oh, interesting.
Like he is big on like, you know, whatever you're making, just make the sauce first. So he's big on like having whatever food you're making and then being like, we have our soy sauce base, we have our mirin, we have our, maybe, I'm trying to think what else he adds. There's always like 3 he kind of starts with, which is like soy sauce, mirin, and some sort of like rice vinegar. And then he's always like, okay, now what else can I add? Maybe fish sauce, maybe this other, maybe sesame oil. He's always like making the sauce first, tasting the sauce, and then implementing it in whatever he's making.
So that feels very, I was going to say holistic, and then I recently learned what holistic actually means, and it's not the way I've been using it. So not holistic, but organic way of approaching it, where it's sort of going like, let me build this sauce, get it to where I want it, and then figure out what I'm going to make based off of that, or what all I'm going to do with it. That's so cool.
It's really cool.
Does he have a thing for you where it's like, I've been texting with Mano, I know he's had a hard day, here's the thing that I'm going to make, or just a thing that's a sort of a staple of his?
I would say, I don't know. He's really good at like a lot of different things. I mean, he's also just good at making like pancakes, which seems simple, but he's just like, so good.
So great though.
That's a big comfort.
That's a real like Sunday morning. That's taking it from good to great.
Also, when we met, we got in a really cool habit of like buying this like really fun, making French toast with this really fun like chocolate challah.
Yeah.
That was next level of like, man. Shit. But no, I mean, generally I'll just eat whatever he makes, because he's like, you know, since he's cooking more, I feel more like, I'll eat whatever you make, like, as opposed to being like, could you cook something specific for me? That feels a little weird for me.
If you were to do that.
If I were, I would. The wings are really high up, I'll say. Wings are really high up. But other than that, I would say maybe he's also made. I can't remember what he made. He made something so good recently. He made like a curry chickpea stew.
Ooh.
It was so good.
I feel like, I don't know if it was like a recipe that was going around, but I think Haley, my wife, has made something like that a few times. And it's just like the chickpea.
Unreal.
The humble chickpea.
The humble chickpea.
Reach for it.
And I'm not always, like beans, like the texture. Sometimes the texture of a bean or a chickpea, I can be like, that's a little too mushy. But when done right, it's like, this is amazing.
You mentioned in our little interview email exchange, not like being very averse to dill pickles. You like other pickled things. You like pickled elements.
Yes.
But dill pickles for you, take me there.
I don't like it. Like,
fair enough.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why, and it could be even a youth thing, because like the other pickled things I've had, I did not have in my youth. But because I didn't have a pickled radish when I was young. I didn't have pickled ginger. You know what I mean? All these things I had later on in life. But I remember I remember having a grilled cheese, and like being served with a nasty like dill pickle spear, and like the juice of the pickle getting on the pure buttery.
No. What a tragedy.
So I think I have some real baggage with it.
I think so. You're like dill pickle for you is the food ruiner.
Uh-huh.
It's not adding anything. Mm-hmm. It's only taking away. Mm-hmm. What a bummer. That's sad. It's a tragedy.
It's ridiculous. It's a real nuisance.
If there were anything, be it just something that you really like or something from childhood or whatever that you were like, I wish if I could just be downloaded into my brain, like I know how to cook that perfectly, it's easy for me, what would that be?
I'll say download it into my brain, perfect cooking. I want to pick something hard. Is it from childhood or is it just
Doesn't
anything?
Have to be, just anything.
Okay, I'll say I'm going to take a big swing and say souffle.
Interesting.
Just because it's so hard and it's so good.
Have you ever tried before?
I have. I've had like I've only had 2 or 3 great ones, but it was just like, wow.
I mean, like, have you tried to make
have I tried to make it? No.
Oh, interesting.
No, but I just know it's one of those things that's just incredibly temperamental.
So you're basically going like, I want to do the thing that everyone knows is hard, so I can then do it and have them be like, props to you. You know how to make souffle. You must be able to make all these other things.
Yes, and then be befuddled when they ask me to make like a sandwich. That would be great. That would be so cool.
But it sounds like you wouldn't be befuddled.
No.
It seems like it's just like, it's not the right time for you right now with cooking. It's just not hitting. You know what I mean?
No,
And
it's
that's
not
okay.
hitting. Maybe one day.
Because it sounds like you've made stuff and you like it. And you also, if it never kicks in, that's chill.
Yeah, I'll just pull out my one party trick of spanakopita. It always works.
What a trick. Mano Agapion, thank you so much for being here.
Oh my God, thank you for having me. Good health to you and yours.
And yours too.
I hope I see you on the other side.
Yes, exactly. That's it. Thanks so much to Mano for being here on a weird day. It was so awesome to talk to him. If you cook along at home, please let me know. We are at Stay for Dinner on Twitter, at Stay for Dinner Pod on Instagram. I'm on Twitter at DC Pierson or on Instagram at DEECEE Pierson because I got on Instagram in 2019 and everything was taken. If you have any questions, comments, things you want me to cook, you can also hit me up at stayfordinnerpod@gmail.com. The interstitial music is by Advanced Bass, the amazing Owen Ashworth. My theme song is July 4th, 2004 by the amazing Jason Anderson. That's available on Spotify and wherever else you stream or download or pay for music. And that's it, guys. I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.